Here is my survival cook stove. It's ideal for cooking food in conditions that are cold and wet. The self-sustaining fire remains hot because it's elevated above the snow. The top of the post provides a perfect cooking surface to set a frying pan, pot, or kettle on. If you want to see how I did it, stay tuned. I headed into the bush for a day of cutting posts. Around 1 o'clock, I stopped for lunch. To help keep warm during my break, I needed to build a fire. To save time, I wanted a fire that would require a minimal amount of wood, while at the same time remain hot enough to brew a kettle of coffee on. The snow is an added challenge because it will naturally sap the fire of its heat, so I decided to make a Canadian candle, otherwise known as a Swedish torch. Now, most Canadian candles are made with firewood that has already been cut, stacked, and seasoned. But obviously, I didn't have any seasoned wood on me at the time, so I needed to use the next best thing. After doing a quick search, I located a small dead-standing elm. This little elm had plenty of time to dry. As you can see, most of the bark had already fallen off. This made it a good candidate for being used as a Canadian candle. Elms aren't known for being the best wood to burn, but they aren't the worst either. I would have preferred a dead-standing pine, spruce, or cedar, but I'll take what I can get. The elm would just have to work. After dropping the tree, I cut an approximate 3-foot section from the trunk. I used my chainsaw to make 2 main slices down into the log, separating the top into 4 quarters. I made the second slice a little larger to allow for more airflow. I figured the elm was going to need the extra help to ignite. If the log were larger, I probably would have sliced it into eighths. Canadian candles are often split into quarters with an axe instead of a chainsaw. This has the added advantage of making it possible to manually adjust the airflow as the fire matures. For example, the pieces can be pulled further apart to allow for more airflow when being ignited, and the pieces can be pushed closer together when the fire becomes self-sustaining to seal in the heat. But the advantage of cutting this log with my chainsaw is that it allows the Canadian candle to be more stable, which is why I'm able to make it several feet above the snow. Anyway, I needed to find some good tinder to help ignite the torch. The bark from this nearby yellow birch tree will work perfectly. I grabbed a few handfuls and stuffed the birch bark into the cuts of the log. To allow for more oxygen into the Canadian candle, I pushed some of the birch bark out from the cuts. I could tell that this elm was going to need a little extra nursing before it would properly ignite, so I slowly added pieces of birch bark to the torch until the fire was able to sustain itself. Hot coffee on a cold day always tastes the best. After I was done with my survival cook stove, I simply flipped the post over and snuffed the fire out in the snow. With that, I was back to work for the afternoon.